Hopefully, because
That looks
like I said,
good.
hairs all over my head. Ugh.
Yep, we're live now.
Yay!
Detroit Business Hub Group Director Nancy O'Neill works with her team of experts. Listen to conversations with business professionals to discover the latest business innovations, insights, and trends. Find out what's hot and what's not in today's business market.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday, one day before Friday. I just want to welcome everybody to the podcast. Today, I have on Melissa McClary Davis, and she is on our board for DBHG. She's our marketing coordinator. So, without further ado, I will let Melissa go ahead and introduce herself and let us know what she's got going on. What's been new since the last time we chatted?
Yes, thanks. So good to see you again, Nancy. And hello, everyone out there. Yes, I am Melissa McClary Davis. I own a digital marketing agency called Wise Digital Marketing, as well as supporting and sitting on the board for the Detroit Business Hub. And yeah, it's been a minute since we last talked.
Yes.
Of course, a lot has happened, as it always happens when it comes to marketing. Especially using some of these platforms. Some of these platforms
Right.
are just changing a lot, and so constantly keeping up to date with what's happening with these platforms and what needs to be done. I think the biggest thing that's going on right now is for those of you who are looking to try to reach people online and using platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Google and things like that, that privacy is becoming a big issue, and so lots of things that we were able to used to do we can't do anymore. Targeting is being taken away. And so we have to really get creative, or like I say, go back to business, like business as usual.
Well, I guess Melissa, now is I guess the new trend is that Facebook is for old people. We're in the older season group. I'm like, how is Facebook for older people? Like,
I tell people, people say that all the time, that Facebook is for old people. But I look at Facebook, YouTube, and Google, and those are the three platforms that I know everybody's business has customers on those platforms. So you've got to use one of them because there's more than 1 billion people on all of those. So you're going to find customers on all of those. And when I mean Facebook, I also mean Instagram. So
I was going to say Instagram. I think that's what the younger kids are using. TikTok, which I honestly, true confession, I have never been on TikTok.
Oh,
the
never.
Kids at school tease me and they're like, I'm a TikTok, because one of the teachers I used to work with, her and her husband were like TikTok king and queen. So she's always talking about the kids. I was like, yeah, we saw you on TikTok. We saw you on TikTok. I was like, hey, I have like 3 Facebook pages. You guys don't ever see me on Facebook? And it's like, man, y'all are making me feel really old right now. So they're like, Facebook.
I know, they look at you like, what's that?
Facebook. And there's some little second graders. So.
Second graders. Hey, my 18-year-old who's about to go to college. Well, most of colleges are still on Facebook because that's where it came from. That's where it started. I literally had to almost put a gun to his head to set up a Facebook account. He was not interested in that at all. But he needed a Facebook account, to be able to chat with the university. So yeah, but Instagram is there and TikTok. I say, Nancy, get on TikTok. Just make an account, and you don't have to do anything but just consuming TikTok is very entertaining. It is very entertaining.
It's just like a video platform, right? Isn't it like Instagram is mostly just videos? I know Instagram is pictures too, but I think it's a lot of video too.
It's a lot like Instagram Reels. And you can see on Instagram Reels, a lot of people who have TikTok are putting their content that they've created in TikTok up on Instagram Reels. And one of the biggest reasons they're doing that is because TikTok, there's some issues with privacy, like I mentioned before. There's also issues with people being shadow banned and not knowing why, and to have a little bit more control. Now, granted, all these platforms, you only have limited control. So, but people know that if you really want to, sustain your business or sustain your content, look at being able to share cross-platform for sure.
Yeah. And I think on Instagram, isn't there like a time limit of 2 minutes per video or something like that? Because I did a 30-day series on small businesses. Maybe it was right during the pandemic. I started the series right when the pandemic hit, which was March 20. And I think I did a series like all of April on how to start your own small business in like 30 days or less. And it was kind of a spinoff of the book.
Yeah. There are some limits. Yeah, there are definitely some limits, but right now it's like up to 3 minutes, and it's getting longer. As a matter of fact, I know TikTok is entertaining 10-minute videos.
Oh wow!
And
that's
so
like a little mini documentary.
Exactly. So most of them are like growing. They start off with 30 seconds or 15 seconds, and they have grown for that. And to compete with the largest platform out there, which is YouTube. YouTube is by far the largest platform in terms of people who are using it, outside of using the Google Chrome browser. But there's over 4 billion people now on YouTube. So
that's awesome.
That's where
that is more than Facebook. Facebook is like 1 billion, so that is they surpassed Facebook now.
Yes,
Doesn't one own the other or something like that?
Well, Google owns YouTube.
YouTube.
Yes, Google owns YouTube. So yes, Google is just licensed to print money over there. But Facebook has Reels, and Facebook is they're good at copying. So they're trying to take over, because TikTok is growing like crazy. And everybody is wanting on TikTok, but TikTok is Chinese owned. And so Facebook is trying to really compete with that. So Reels is their TikTok competitor. And if you use Reels, they're really, even the algorithms are like helping you as a business utilizing those tools. It's more algorithm friendly, so they want you to use video. So video is definitely one of the most important trends and things that people just need to know, that you're going to have to use video or movement in your in some of your content on those social platforms.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one thing that helps us to be competitive as a nonprofit is definitely the vlogs.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes they want to connect the face with the brand, because you can have like the glossiest Facebook page, website, marketing material, hard print marketing material. It's like, if you never talk, they're like, well, people can say a lot of stuff in print. And they want to really know that you actually have a brain. So
exactly. And it's just credibility and authenticity too, because people don't want to see a lot of slick stuff. And there's, unfortunately, because since there's more people on it, there's more opportunists and scammers who are trying to come out of the woodworks. And so they definitely want to connect the face with the brand, with the business. And I know I tell people, you got to put your face on every now and then, but it doesn't have to be daily. But, let people know that there's a human that's behind the setup. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that they want to know that you're like real and genuine, especially like the higher ups that you go, in any industry, like real estate, like a Gil Perry Mason Investments, or a Mark Z. They're like, is this person really real or the Jeff guy, Jeff Glover with Keller Williams? Because you see them like on billboards, they seem larger than life. There's an attorney, her face is like I want to say Joanna.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere. Like I see her, I'm like, how can you afford this? It's so expensive. And these are people that you like, unless you're in their circles, which there's like high level business, professionals, attorneys, you will more than likely not meet them. So, in order for them to relate to the common person, a common man, video is really their only option, unless you see them like catch them on a newsreel or something like that, or some type of a live event.
Yeah, because it is expensive when you go into their office. Yeah, you're like, okay, they're really down the hall. You're not going to see.
Yeah, you're going to speak to their assistant more than likely. These are people that are kind of one-on. Well, Gail Perry Mason, I will say she's very personable. Ellis Liddell, he's very personal. So sometimes you will actually meet them face to face. But like I said, the higher you go up in business, like the more they have like other people in front of them protecting them.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good thing. So I know a couple of people like that I've sent emails to. I'm still waiting on a response.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're like, oh, so I called the office and I'm like, okay, so I'm trying to get a hold of such and such person. who should I send the email to? I was like, oh, send it directly to him. I'm like, he's never gonna read it. Like, what? This is a waste of my time.
Yeah.
So I sent it anyway, and like, there's no response. I'm like calling back. I'm like, is there like an assistant or a secretary who actually reads the email that I can send this to?
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's like the higher up people go, like the more gatekeepers you're gonna end up running into.
Yep. Exactly. That is so true. Very true.
Yeah. So I know you really didn't go a whole lot. You're a very humble person, so you didn't really go into your background a whole lot.
Oh
but
yeah.
I know previously, before you started your own business, Wise Digital Marketing, you were kind of one of those executives at the table. So how was that for you to make that leap from, being a high corporate executive in marketing to starting your own thing? And that's probably like a humbling experience too, because you're basically starting all over. And like you were behind these huge multinational companies, and then you kind of had to step down and humble yourself and then create your own brand. So talk about that transition and how difficult that was.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've worked with a number of brands that are probably in almost every American home, right? Whether it's automotive or consumer packaged goods, I've worked with them, Coke, Ford, GM. And being a VP at that corporate level, the one thing that I know, just I've always wanted to have my own business. And so and I've been doing marketing for decades now. So
no, time is flying.
Time is flying. So as much as I love working with some of those brands, I love the small business. I know the small businesses need some marketing rigor. I am a marketing geek, so I like to help and serve in that way. And I'm tired of small businesses getting ripped off by charlatans out there who claim they're into marketing. So for me, that's one of the biggest challenge when I because I did my business on the side for over 15 years, and I've been full time in my business, in my agency, for about 3 years now. And I built it up. I have a nice cadre of clients. Definitely within the first year and a half, kicked past the 6-figure mark, which is great. And the biggest thing for me was having a team, right? That I could rely on. And so coming back in, and not to say that I didn't like rolling my sleeves up. I've always did it because I'm, like I said, I'm a marketing geek. But having to roll my sleeves up a little bit more and do some of those things where I had a team to do that. So I had to really create those efficiencies where I'm like, okay, I need to build up my team so that way I can do what I do best, which I like to always think of is like $1,000 plus an hour type of tasks versus those $10 an hour tasks. So I got, my team together, but it was a challenge because you have to, bringing somebody into a small business, it's more than just like saying, hey, do you know how to do this? Okay, I'll pay you that. I have to create a brand, right? Because right now, employees have a lot of power, right? And so there's a lot of competition out there. And for small businesses is even more. If you talk to any small business owner, probably the number one or number two challenge that they have is hiring and retaining employees. Because you try to compete with businesses who are now having to compete with themselves because employees have a lot of power. So creating a brand and an environment and perks in a way is a thing that kind of helped me so I can bring in a team that wants to do the type of work I love doing, which is, marketing. But so I think that's probably one of the biggest challenge is finding the team that has a willingness and the flexibility of wanting to work with small business agency, boutique curated agency. So.
Right. So when you talk about your team now, and this is something that I talk about in my book, Fire Your Job, Be Your Own Boss. Do you mostly outsource or do you have like staff that you work with either part-time, or how does your team look?
I'm a little bit of a hybrid. So I as an agency, because we have contracts that come and go. So every month, you're either bringing on new projects or concluding projects. So just to safeguard and mitigate any risk I have, especially if the pipeline, becomes to a complete halt, like for most people did in the pandemic. I use a series of like contractors, but I do need to have somebody because I have to. I got to replace myself. So I actually this year, hired somebody part time, a couple of people part time who have a vested interest in my business, and they're interested in what I am doing to grow with me and to grow my business. So a little bit of a hybrid.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about you being in marketing, I have a journalism background, is you interns. I mean, they work for free and they need the experience. Sometimes they'll stick with you after college, or it's a good part-time opportunity while they're still in school.
Yes.
So I think that's an excellent direction to go into.
I agree. I have used several interns and I keep up with them. I'm a University of Michigan alumni, Go Blue. So I'm always, looking out for those Ross Business School interns. Love, because I have I also like to teach. I've taught classes. So I love helping and teaching young marketers, the foundation that they need to have to be successful, not only here, but also, use me if necessary as a launching pad to find, different work. And I've had 2 interns in the past that have done that. One right now is in New York working for, I'm working for Louis Vuitton, and another one is also still at school, but summer interning in New York working for a financial services company. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I really like to provide that access of just understanding and knowing marketing and at all levels, but and for internship, price is always good. So you definitely give value. You become one of my interns, that's for sure.
Yeah, I did intern. My bachelor's is in journalism and international relations. I was going to be this international journalist. I'll laugh at that now. But anyway, I interned. I lived in DC for the summer because Caribbean Travel and Life, I think they were owned by, might have been American Eagle, American Airlines, but I believe they sold to Conde West. And they were in Maryland. So I took the train every day into Maryland. Was there 3 or 4 times a day. I did all of this for free. Like I arranged all of this. I'm like, I lived with one of my sister's friends who was in Peace Corps with. And I'm like, the expenses of interning, it is crazy. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing all this for free. Like I'm not getting paid anything. But you're in essence like, it pays off in the long run because, it's almost like they're teaching you a trade. So it's like, instead of us paying you, you should be really paying us, which is like essentially what you're doing. You're basically volunteering your hours. So you can learn how to be a professional in the industry. And it's like, it's one of the most competitive industries to be in is like journalism and writing, because there's so many people who are vying for those few spots that are actually open and available.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm sure you've got a lot of great experience, I got
a couple of articles out of it, which I could also use for my portfolio, to build up my portfolio. So it's like now you've got this national magazine that you can use. So yeah, it was, and I love DC. Okay. I loved it. There is so much to do. Not that I'm knocking Detroit, but it's like I was out every day. I was going to bookstores. I mean, it's like the Black professional mecca in the country. Like I would say, aside from Atlanta, they're probably neck and neck.
Yep.
I love Baltimore. So I love the whole area. And I went to boarding school for a couple of years in New England. So it was just such a great opportunity because I didn't get to see like a lot of times at high school, like African-American professionals performing at that level. And it was just, and then I went to University of Wisconsin. So I'm out there with cows and cheese. And, there's not a lot going on, even though they had the, what do you call it? The fabulous night, the Black sororities and fraternities.
Yeah.
I was not in a sorority. My mom was a Delta, but I didn't pledge. And I just did not see that kind of exposure. So when I got there, I was like, oh my goodness, all these people, they're walking around with suits on and everything. It was almost like a culture shock. So I just was like, wow, it's like you could, I don't know how this, I'm trying to be as PC as possible, but it's like you could surround yourselves with African American professionals, and it wasn't it's like no big deal. It's like, you know, and it's like it was such a drastic change from Wisconsin, where we had the Black Student Union in Wisconsin. They created a button. This is how bad it was on our campus that said just say hi, because we're used to passing right by each other and not even speaking. And they created the button because it's like there's so few of us here, we can't afford not to speak to each other. Like, we have to stick together. Yep. And it's like, this is so ridiculous that we're even recognizing ourselves that we have a problem that we need to address. Yeah. So
that is so very true.
Love the experience. So it was worth going just for that experience alone.
Yep.
And I wanted to go to Howard, which was one of my mom didn't graduate there, but she actually received a scholarship to Howard, which is almost impossible to do.
Yeah.
And you know, for a couple of different reasons, she told me no, she wanted me to stay closer to home. After being in boarding school, which on the other end of the United States, New England, for 2 years, now you want me to be close to you in Wisconsin. I was like,
she missed you.
I was like, yeah, exactly. And so I had some other experiences related to that. We had a family friend who, while I was in high school, for those 2 years in Maine, of all places, she was a student at Brown University. So I got to visit some Ivy League schools. While at Brown, I went to see her a couple of times while she was living there, while she was attending Brown. And I met, like, you know, authors like Marie Sendak. And I love it. Once again, it's that same culture shock. It's like, you know, you can imagine Brown University almost 20 years ago, there's hardly any of us there.
Yep.
And she actually ended up having a nervous breakdown because she attended a diverse high school. I think she was just like a little overwhelmed. And Brown is like an extremely difficult school academically. And she's like, she was an honor roll student. She was at the top of her class. So it's just like an emotional cracking, you know, that you're not, you see that you're not represented. And it's kind of like, well, you went to Michigan, so there's probably more of you all there than there was at the time I went to Wisconsin. But it's kind of like you don't see enough of a reflection of yourself there. And I think you kind of, it's easy to come up with this mentality and philosophy, like, how am I going to make it here? It's like you just don't feel like you have that emotional, spiritual, and, you know, those coping skills that you need to be successful at these types of universities. And these are things that we never talk about, like, you know, being an African-American student at a Big Ten university. So I know we are like getting way off the questions that I think that I sent you, but it would be a really good conversation to have another day, because like I said, things that we don't talk about.
We need to. There needs to be classes in that. They don't. I mean, I love the fact that they do amazing work for the HBCUs. I appreciate that. But for us at the PWIs, they really need to.
At Big Ten universities.
Big Ten University, they need to really look, and there should be some prepping of that. Now, luckily, because I was able to prep my kids a little bit, but you know, we need to do that. We don't have enough generational ideas of that. I think right now, what is it? Maybe third generation max at universities. My daughter is third generation. I'm second, but but we are still in the minority of the minority, right?
I agree.
Because there's a bunch of first generations out there who are now have the opportunity to go. So yeah, that's that's definitely a discussion for another day that we need to talk about.
We definitely do. I didn't realize you had went to Michigan, so I don't know how I missed that before.
I'm a Big Ten girl. I went to Michigan. I did some time at Michigan State. I went to Northwestern, and I love Wisconsin's campus. Out there in Madison, reminds me so much of Ann Arbor a little bit.
Look, if you've been to Madison, you've been to Ann Arbor. And when I finally got to the campus, I had to go there to do some studying in a library one time. I'm like, oh my God.
It's Ann Arbor.
I'm back in Wisconsin again.
I like it. It's a lot like it. I'm like, and that's why I felt comfortable like going to Madison. I'm like, Madison I always thought is like my, Wisconsin's always had a special place because to me it's like a sister school to Michigan.
It is very much a sister school. There were a lot of students that I came across in contact with that graduated. They went to high school in Michigan. And what's ironic is that the tuition is so crazy that that it's for some students, it's cheaper for them to go to school out of state. It was at this time in Wisconsin than in state in Michigan. That's how ridiculous public Ivy League university is. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, why did you just go to Michigan? The tuition's cheaper here. I'm going, that doesn't sound right.
I know for the us Great Lakes schools. That's funny though.
Yeah. So back to the interview. Like I said, we have to talk about that's one off. We got to talk about that another day.
Yep.
And so my friend, she broke down she took a semester off of college. I think she was maybe in her sophomore year when she stepped out away from the collegiate thing. And she actually she went on to graduate from Michigan. So her mom, I don't know if you know that my mom she retired as a professor when she retired in admin. So she was teaching in Wisconsin, which is how I got to Wisconsin. And then she accepted a position as dean at Wayne State. So but she graduated, when I graduated from high school, I followed her here. And that's how we got to Michigan. So
okay.
Like I said, it's not that big of a difference between Wisconsin and Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah, their campuses are really similar. Okay, so we did one. Any new clients or marketing trends that you want to talk about today?
Sure. I work with. I always want to say people have digital marketing agencies. They sometimes niche into a certain industry. I don't, because I was a consultant for so long too that I worked in a lot of industries, probably a lot of major industries except for healthcare. That's one area I haven't worked in yet, although I have a proposal out for healthcare. But yeah, so my clients, I have a few new clients, especially here in the Metro Detroit area. A few I'll name off, especially from a real estate standpoint. I have a client, Woodward West is a new apartment complex going up downtown. So it's brand new construction, and they're one of my clients from an advertising standpoint. I also work with a client that I adore who has a single consumer packaged goods product called Nakey Butter. It's an alternative butter spread. And Evan and the team over there have been doing amazing work in creating this wonderful alternative butter spread. And so I've been working with them and making sure getting the word out about their great product that they have. And then I also have a product that's near and dear to my heart and probably your heart by an African-American doctor who has created a line, or who has created a community around intimate wellness and female wellness, as well as sexual health and wellness products that are for women, by women, and also just to understand how you need to think about your own self-care, especially down there. Yes, intimatewellnessshop.com. You go there, it's an e-commerce shop. And she has been doing some amazing work in terms of all the products that she's offering. But her products are highly recommended because of her OBGYN background, and her being one of the few and uniquely owned e-commerce shops by an African-American woman in the United States is great. So I am enjoying my work with Janet and the team there, helping just get the word out. One, about this area, and two, just to grow her business, because her business is in the area, especially when it comes to digital marketing, that I specialize into, because I've worked in the areas where it's very hard to market online because of the nature of some of the products, right? Because of certain keywords and words that you have to use or you can't use, because it can come across as those taboo type of subjects that they don't want to talk about online, especially from a marketer standpoint. So I'm working with her from a strategy to how we can work around some of those things, and to get the word out and to use um, Facebook advertising, Google advertising to continually to grow her business. So
yeah, that's great. Now you hear, I think it's Venus. You hear them talking about intimate shaving on
Yep.
the radio now. And I'm just in the first couple, I guess it kind of wore off on me, but the first couple of times I'm like, nobody wants to hear about this on the radio.
You know what?
They're talking about anything online. I mean, and on TV now.
They can. And it's funny because hearing about it on the radio, but some of these Gen Zers, they definitely hearing about it on TikTok because they are like ready to go and make sure that self-care is important. Self-care down there is important too. So they have their appointments, they're set and ready to go. So yeah, and it's not a taboo subject for them. They're fearless with that. So
yeah, and you have like the honey pot out now.
The honey pot, yep.
African American brand as well.
Yep.
So since you brought that up, do you have something where you have like a niche market for Detroit business owners, such as Ellis Iced Tea, or are you working with some Target distributors in Detroit, since you're kind of a native Detroiter yourself, and I know you want to give back to your own community? So do you have something where you kind of target them, or if you see like a Metro Detroit business struggling, that you contact them and say, hey, this is what I can do? And I know that your rates are really affordable because we've hired you as well.
Yep. Yes, I do. I have the way I do it just to make it easy. I have collaborated with a number of different business incubators in the Detroit area that are working with businesses like LST and make sure that they're aware of my services, because there's not a lot of like boutique marketing agencies, Black-owned, women-owned, in the Metro Detroit area. And so people want to work with folks if they know about it. So yeah, I work with different business incubators. I think I may have told you, Tech Town is definitely one of my clients. They do a lot of great work down there. Yep. Yep. And so I tend to chat with that group. I'm heavily involved with Small Business Association of Michigan. So I shouldn't say heavily. I'm a member and I go to a lot of those events, as well as several chambers that I work with. And then in terms of targeting from a distribution, it almost becomes natural where I start to connect the dots. Like I'm like, okay, you know what? Nikki Butter does this and this. This will work best with my yoga client. And so, we kind of connect the dots from that perspective. So I do kind of act as a collaborator or connector,
Yeah, that's good. That's how Pam Perry, she used to clone herself, or she used to call herself the connector.
Yep.
It's good to be that type of person. It's like, everybody.
Yeah, so. Definitely. And you need to. And as more and more businesses, especially small businesses, grow and start in Detroit, it's just great to have some resources that they can kind of go to, that can connect them with other folks. So definitely, I do have a special place. It's great that I do have business that is out of state, but a good cadre of my clients, are Detroit-based, Detroit-owned, Michigan-based, Michigan-owned. So.
Yeah, I said Target because Target actually has that program where they target. That's every other word today. They target minority business owners specifically. It seems like they target African American women, because there's a few, like I think the Lip Bar, I think they're at Target as well. So they actually set dollars aside for it seems predominantly African American women. I'm sure that there's some African American men or other minorities that are also targeted for Target.
Yep. Yes, they are targeting
Target now.
they're definitely targeting the Target. Yeah, it is a good thing. I mean, a lot of that work still is coming out of their headquarters there in Minneapolis. But what they do is like you pitch them, and then it kind of goes to the field team. But since we're sort of the Great Lakes region anyway, so it's a little associated with the Minneapolis side of things. But yeah, they do they're making a conscious effort with that at Target, which that's the reason why Target is so great. I love Target. So
yeah, I like Target as well. Okay. How are you combating inflation in your business, and what do you do to help small business owners who are facing that? We're all dealing with it on a personal and a business level at this point.
We are, and I'm grateful because, well, my business is service based, so I don't have to worry about the raw materials and things like that.
Yeah.
But the best thing I do, because I work with businesses that are either product based or have supply chains issues. My best method to kind of combat that is I do offer like payment plans for my business owners. So that way they don't have to one lump sum at once. We can kind of spread the payments out a little bit. But at the end of the day, everything is sort of inflated. My services, my biggest line item for my business is like a lot of office expenses, a lot of software, outside of my employees and contractors, office expenses and software, and those are rising too. So so prices go up a little bit, but for the most part, how I can get around that is if I may have to I increase the price, but at least I'm offering in payment plans, so that makes it easier.
Yeah, that is really helpful. And you do work out of your home office as well as we're home based as well with DBHG, so I'm not having that overhead.
Yes, exactly. You don't have to worry about the gas, but every time I go fill that gas tank, I'm like, oh my God, I have to stop myself. Now I used to just fill it and just sit back in the car and wait till it's full. Now I'm just like, I gotta stop. I gotta stop when I get I just can't stomach going beyond that.
Well, thankfully it is going back down a little bit. So
yeah, it's not fast enough. Not fast enough.
You also go out of town quite a bit as well. So do you have some small businesses or large businesses that you've seen that you had to do those appointments out of town?
I did have a client that required me to go out of town for but again, with some of my agency work, though, it is project based, so sometimes it's for a minute and then I don't have to go. But there are two spots that I go to a lot. One is New York and one is Pittsburgh. New York in particular, a couple of reasons, because it's such a large market, and I can see two things. I can see potential clients there, but I also see some of my business colleagues and buddies that I work with. And I got a free place to stay because I have family there.
That's good. That's always a perk.
Yeah, that's always a perk. So I do, when I do go out of town, I try to schedule that, ahead of time, because, also flights are expensive. And then Pittsburgh, one of the main reasons for Pittsburgh is my daughter's there. So I like to go visit her. As a matter of fact, I'm going to visit her tomorrow. But also Pittsburgh is a tech center. It's there's lots of businesses and influx of people who come into Pittsburgh because, there's a huge Amazon affiliation in Pittsburgh, as well as some of the headquarters are there that people don't really think about. And so
I had no idea.
Yeah, so it's like a hidden market. Like, who goes to Pittsburgh? Especially it's one of those cities like Detroit. Who comes to Detroit? And you realize, look at all these headquarters here. People always get surprised about the fact that Detroit has the two major pizza chains in the United States are located here. And people are like, what? Really? I'm like, yeah, Little Caesars and Domino's. So Pittsburgh is one of those cities very similar to that. And when I go and visit her, I have a lot of business buddies that, we are a community, especially us small business owners. And I meet up with them, and then we talk about, exchanging services, or can you help supplement what they're doing there? And yeah, so travel is definitely a part of it. I like to travel when I can, get out of my home office every now and then. Now that we can again after the pandemic. But I also like the fact that I am pretty remote with what I do, and I don't necessarily need to be client facing physically facing the clients, because a lot of businesses now are even asking that question. Do I really need to come into your office just to present this to you?
Right.
So
it's like Zoom. Hello.
Yeah.
That's why the stock went up so high. Where's your sister? Where's your daughter going to school?
My daughter just graduated. She just finished at University of Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
so
University
she didn't follow your footsteps. She decided not to go to Michigan.
No, she didn't. But one of the reasons why, especially being out of state, they gave her more money. They gave her more money.
I told you. That's how it was in Wisconsin.
I mean, yeah, they gave her money. I mean, out of state tuition too. And they gave her money. And so, and Pittsburgh has a top 10 program, just like Michigan. So it was pretty easy for her to choose that, because especially with a nursing degree, it just made the most sense. So she finished up. She's actually working there. She's already working in their system, and so she's gaining all this amazing experience as a new nurse. And Pittsburgh is like one of those interesting cities, right? It's on the come up. It's like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Detroit. It's on those blue collar sports town.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But they have some of the same challenges. She has some of the same challenges that you mentioned about, young Black professionals. They're there. It's just hard to find them.
There's pockets.
Yeah, you got to know how to look for it, but she's 4 hours from DC too, so she likes to go.
Yeah, just get on the train.
Yep.
Well, then I'm glad she's enjoying herself. And sometimes it's good if you're born and raised in Michigan. Sometimes it's good to have a change, and you can always come back.
You can always come back, and as you know, because you're a transplant, so you've lived in a variety of different places. You've met, I'm sure, a bunch of Detroiters and some folks who've never left, and so it's a little different, perspective.
Right, exactly.
When you experience different places, especially on this side of the Mississippi, where there's been like strong groups of African Americans, whether it's Atlanta or Chicago or DC, Philly, you just gotta experience that,
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, she gets homesick or whatever, she can always come back.
Yes, she can.
Well, I'm glad you get to see your baby. Yeah. I saw a picture of you actually with your family on Facebook. I was like, this is the cutest thing. And that's what we were talking about when we first started the conversation about, being personable. And people, that's one nice thing about Facebook. People want to know you on a personal level, even as a business owner. They want to know like that you're touchable, that you're relatable. And like with Mike Rizzo, most of the DBA Chic members are friends on Facebook, but he has some of the craziest. I look at his story, and a lot of times he puts like food up there. And so one time I asked him, because he's our videographer for the group, and he's a marketing genius too. And I'm like, Mike, why do you? I said, why do you put this stuff on your page? He said, because it's just for fun. I just want people to know that I'm a regular person, just like everybody else. And exactly. He takes different trips out of town. As with me and Reggie, anytime we go out of town, I usually put it up my story. So he does these little things where he goes on like a 1-day trip, and just taking pictures of like really random stuff. But it's really interesting because it gets that's the thing with him. He's so like spontaneous. You don't know what he's gonna put up on there next. So
yeah, and it's
interesting.
They want to get to know you. I know somebody. She reached out to me, and she became one of my clients. She hired me. And one of the main reasons why she hired me, because she didn't know me, I didn't know her, was I had a picture of myself up on a profile, and my face was sideways. I was doing something. And she goes, you just seem quirky, the type of person that I want to work with. I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes you never know what's going to do it for some people. And it's like some of the things you never would have thought about, like I could be, ditzy, quirky sometimes too. And I kind of have like this smile where sometimes at the bottom it's kind of crooked. Yeah. But people notice those kind of things. Like I got a caricature of from Gibraltar once, and I thought it was the cutest thing. I think I put it up on Facebook a couple times. I don't know if you saw it or not. But my mom was like, well, you've got like a lazy eye. And she goes, and she said, one of your eyes when you smile is kind of going in. Like, and I was like, Mom, no, you're the only person that ever would have saw that. So I didn't even see it myself. And I'm sitting here putting it on Facebook. And then when she said that, I saw it. It's like one of the eyes kind of goes more inside. So she was going, you need to take that off of Facebook. And then she's like, it looks like something's wrong with your eyes. So I was so self-conscious about it after that. And then before she said anything, I thought it was like the cutest thing.
Yeah, well, that's what mothers do, right?
I know. It's like they put a look. They really know how to burst your bubble like fast, inflate it faster than anything else.
They do.
I was like, thanks, Mom.
That's so true.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm getting way off on other tangents, but I just said all that to say that you don't know what's going to do it for some people, and I think just being yourself, like there's only one authentic, genuine you, and I think that's going to sell better than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I know you had a question about like what's your value proposition? Just sometimes it's just being you.
Yeah.
Because and especially when it comes to like agency, because if you see like different type of marketing agencies online, they provide information. They want to show that they have authority and stuff like that. And yeah, I have that authority. I've been, my team has over 60 years of marketing experience, but you want to at least enjoy some of the people you work with, and you want to have clients that could appreciate what you appreciate. And so you gotta share that. The world is just, by using digital means, you got to just try to make it as personal as possible, and just understand we're all human, we're all self-effacing, we all have faults and charms, and just realize that everybody just make the world a better place by trying to be as authentic as possible. There's too many people who are taking people, especially in the digital space. Too many scams that are going on, so authenticity helps.
Yeah, it does. I think it does. It goes a long way. And speaking of which, that ties into my next question. What's one thing that small business owners can do to have a winning edge over their competition?
Again, it's the one is the authenticity, but I do think for most small businesses, they got to think more holistically. I do. Some of them are, kind of their heads are a little bit buried about, all right, I need to make money, so I need to do some marketing, and marketing is such a broad area, but they kind of go down the rabbit hole of like, I gotta run ads, and I know I offer that services, but they really got to think about strategy and what they need to do first.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing is like, gotta make sure your house is in order, so your website looks great. That's the one thing, so people know that they can get through and they can transact as fast as possible, or whatever conversion it is. But to think about it holistically from a strategy standpoint of, really have them just get to know you and kick the tires and feel comfortable that you're a business, you're legit. So authenticity, getting out there in all the platforms, so people know that yes, this is a real person, and yes, they have services that will help me, or products that I like. But it's real, just keeping it real.
Yeah, and that just reminds me, like sometimes, you see some of these ministers who are like larger than life, and sometimes they have that same barrier as well, especially like, from the pulpit, there's that space between them and their audience. So that space is like, even though it's physical, it's also more than that. It's almost, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's almost like I'm here and you're down here. And sometimes it doesn't translate too well. One thing that Bishop Butler does to be a little bit more personable is he'll take like his pulpit from off the stage, and he comes and brings it down on the same level as his audience. So he's a lot closer.
Yeah.
And then pastors who shake hands, with their congregants after the service. So it's like breaking those barriers down. Yeah. And those things they go a long way, because I think some of the time with these mega ministries is that, if something happens where that person does fall, there's like a follow away, because the person's like, well, because they always put off this picture perfect image. Yeah. So when people actually realize that, hey, they're human too, a lot of it doesn't translate, because they've never shown themselves unpolished, or, there's one minister, she comes to some of the women's meetings at Word of Faith, and she's so personal. Like she'll be on her Instagram, like with no makeup on.
Yeah.
And people love that. And like her husband, he doesn't care about it too much. She's like, you look terrible. You need to go put some makeup on. A lot of times you'll see me on, like, I don't have on any makeup right now. You'll see. And we talked about that before the camera started, before we went live. I've never really, even though I sold Mary Kay, I've just never really been a makeup type of girl. I wear it when I have to, if it's like an in-person presentation, I'm gonna wear, some makeup. But just like sometimes I wear it on the podcast, sometimes I don't. Most people can't tell when I have it on anyway. So I'm like, I might as well just go bare. But
yeah,
sometimes it works. Sometimes we need to wear makeup. Like there's occasions where we should have some on. If like I had some major skin problems, I would definitely want to cover those blemishes up.
mm-hmm.
But I think that's like you said with the authenticity, like that's one of the biggest problems in today's society is like we don't really know who's real, who's fake, who can you trust, who can you not trust. I mean, is this person being their genuine self or are they trying to be somebody else? So I think it's a really big problem. And I think instead of, like you said, dumping all this money into marketing dollars, why not just like turn the camera on like I'm doing now and just let people see I think sometimes we're afraid to let people see our real self.
Yeah.
Whatever reason, fear, rejection, or whatever.
Yep.
But it's like that's going to sell more than anything else, more than you trying to put on this other persona that you're not. Because when people figure out that that's fake, that's going to hurt your image, not help it. So
exactly. You got it. Yeah, keeping it real for sure. And I do that. I try to do that as much as possible with myself, with my clients, and on the platforms too.
Yeah. So and something else that I think is a lot lost art, Tammy Turner, when you interviewed her, she talked about that quite a bit, is like building rapport, like using that Ford model, like tell me about your family, occupation, what do you do for recreation? And then once you get to know them a little bit better, what do you do for your dreams? And I think especially for like dating, we go like from 0 to 10 so fast, like there's no in between time.
Yep.
And I don't really know. I mean, it's like there's so many things. I think like that's becoming a lost art now where I love networking, one-on-one. And I think people just aren't doing that. I don't know if it's because of like the digital, world that we live in, but it's like a lost art. Like people, it's like, sometimes you even go to networking events and I like walk up to people or a group of small men or women. Cause a lot of times we could go to networking events with somebody else that we know and we only talk to people that we know there, which is kind of defeating the purpose.
Yep.
And I'm like, hi, and they say it's like, whoa. It's almost like, back up, like you're in my personal space. And I'm like, isn't this a networking event? I mean, isn't this what we're here for?
Exactly.
But I just wanted you to touch on that a little bit too, because I feel like it's something that a lot of us aren't doing anymore. And it's like, how are you going to get a client? Like if you can't sit there and talk to somebody for, a couple of minutes and like get to know them first.
You know what, you have to. The good news with that, especially in the digital space, because people always want to put up like that pristine image of them digitally.
Yeah.
Well, right now we're talking about, okay, now you got to do some video, right? And so people don't like have like, by natural like video editing skills. So they got to do things like this talking head type of videos. And this is where you're going to show up, and you need to show up as authentic. And so it takes a lot of work, to be able to try to present something in a way where, okay, I have to do 23 takes. I'm like, no, just do.
That's how I was when I first started Detroit Business Hub Group. I never would have done anything live. And I used to drive Mike up the wall because I'm like, okay, Mike, like this is like take 6. Take 7. He's like, Nancy, like, this is it. We're not doing this again. It's like you've said the same thing 3 or 4 times. This is fine. I'm going to use this. He's like, trust me. I'm going to edit this. And this. I'm like, okay, Mike, I'm going to trust you. But I was just so like into having that polished look. And there is a place for that. You do want to have, and Mike will tell you this, you want to have that professional image for, the face of your organization. So there's a place and a time to do professional videos, but for one thing, it's very expensive. Mike does give discounts because we are a nonprofit, but it's very expensive. And then 2, like you said, but we talked about before, they don't ever see that real image of who is this person really. Like I know, and they know when something's been scripted or edited. Because I'm so bad when the last time that Mike videotaped DBHD event, he's going to be at the ribbon cutting, by the way. But I had cue cards, and he's like, I can't. He was just like, really, Nancy? And I'm like, look, this costs a lot of money. So, and I know you don't want me saying the same thing 4 or 5 times. I was literally reading off a cue card, and he was like, Nancy, this sounds so scripted. And it didn't bother me. I'm like, I want it to be polished. But but I kind of take it to another level. I'm actually a recovering perfectionist. So I take it to another level, and he's like, okay, now you've gone from like this end, like you're all the way like way over here now. Like now it's just too polished. Like you sound almost like a robot. And I'm like, well, it sounds good to me. So we're gonna go with this. But yeah, I think that you do need a little bit of a combination of both, because you don't want to come off looking scruffy either for that, and first impressions are lasting impressions. So you do want to put your best foot forward initially. But I think after that, you do have to kind of break it down, because I'm really conscious about how I dress. I put, this is my own t-shirt. So that's why I'm wearing a t-shirt today. But when I go to like different networking events, I'm conscious about how I dress, because I'm like, well, it depends on who's going to be there. And I always look like, who is this event for? Because I'm conscious that I don't go into the event dressed better than whoever is presenting at the event.
Yeah.
So, because then it's almost like, it's kind of like you go to a wedding and you look better than the bride does, because you're kind of showing them up. So I kind of feel like that same way. And I always look at like, how does this person dress? Because, with the Shannon Steele event, she wears jeans everywhere. Like that's just her, that's part of her brand. And she'll put, like, for her dressing up, she'll put on a black jacket or a blazer and jeans. And I was just like flipping out, because I'm like, well, I don't want to, people know that's not my brand. I'm not going to go to a business meeting with some jeans on. But I'm like, on the other hand, I don't want to, I don't want to dress better than the presenter. So I was really flipping out on, what am I supposed to wear to this thing? So, and I just, I think we took a photo together, because I know you were at that event too. And I just wore my like normal black suit or black dress and a suit or a jacket or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was fine. So I think it's just like, be true to yourself, be your own self. And she took photos with her jeans and her blazer on. It looked fine. So it worked out.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Be yourself. Represent the brand you want to do. I know, as a marketer, you tend to have to look a little bit creative. So I'm like you. I corporate, you had to look a certain way.
Yeah.
I kind of moved away from that, because I like wearing. I do like wearing dress jeans and a nice little blazer. Because I want to kind of bring that image forward. So,
and I think in marketing, you are allowed to be a little bit more creative. So that's one of the nice things about marketing. I actually talk about that in my book too, about how to dress appropriately. And then I said, like, if you're, a hair designer, people are looking at your hair anyway. They don't really care what you have on. But you can, when you are kind of like in those artsy industries, you can kind of, mix your colors up and, kind of show more skin. So we both come from that conservative background where it's like everything in your closet is like black, gray. Blue,
gray, khaki,
black, gray, or blue, and it's just like. And then one of my friends was telling me in college, she's like, I'm about to take you shopping, and I'm like, why? Because she's like, at that time I was wearing jeans all the time. She's like, because all your jeans you buy the same color. It's like, she's like, it's like you're wearing the same outfit every day. And I changed it up, and I love the Gap at the time, but Old Navy now. And it's like they do kind of have that same look or brand, but that's how they branded themselves. So I would just pretty much walk out every day out of the dorm room with, Old Navy on. And she's like, okay, we got to change this up, because you're wearing like a t-shirt and jeans almost every time I see you. So she took me shopping. So that, and we talked about this before, like clothing, because we said sometimes it takes somebody out, in your circle to like, we don't notice it ourselves. That I didn't notice that I dress the same way almost every day, but sometimes it takes somebody else to point those things out to us. So even though we have a brand, I mean, sometimes our brand needs to be updated. Like,
gotta
change it up. Like, I recently got bangs, and I was talking to Rich. I was like, okay, what was different about me? And he's like, your hair is longer. I'm like, yeah, and he's like, let me see. He's kind of looking at everything. He's like, you colored up your grays and showing. I was like, yeah, besides that, he's like, I don't know what I said. I got some bangs. I said, you can't see these bangs right. And now they kind of grew out because months ago, so you can't really see them anymore. I'm like, don't you notice my bangs? I'm trying to, frame my face and have more hair coming into my face. He's like, oh, he's like, that's what those are called, bangs. Yeah, I was like, yeah, bangs.
That's a guy response. Guys don't
exactly.
see that.
Guy response.
Mm-hmm. They don't
So
see
you
that.
literally have to like do something really drastic. Like I would have to get like a real haircut or, go blonde or something for it to be like, oh, wow, you changed your hair.
Yeah.
So last time I saw him last week and I said, I'm like, Reggie, I said, what do you think about me getting a haircut? Like not just the bangs, but a real haircut. And I'm like, like I'm thinking like a pixie cut, like down, like cut like, 2 or 3 inches off. He's like, no. And I'm like, why not? I said, it's the summertime. I'm like, some women do that in the summer. They go they cut their hair and I said, they get it dyed. They go a lighter color in the summer. And he's like, no, he said, you just said you were trying to grow your hair like a month ago. I said, well, what if I want a haircut? He's like, no, Nancy, you're not getting a haircut. No. I was just like, oh. So I said, well, now at least I know you like long hair now.
You can always buy it too, right?
Exactly. I said, hey, if I don't like the haircut, I can always, go get a wig, throw some hair in there. So because I had mentioned your family, we probably won't get to all our questions. I don't want to keep you too long over. What does your husband do? Because I don't know if we ever talked about that.
Yeah, you know what? He's got his MBA. He was financial analyst.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's like a finance guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he might even help you out with your numbers and your business. I don't know if you want him doing that. If you want your own space as well.
Yeah, we try to like keep the separate spaces, just sanity. Yeah.
Does he work from home too, or does he like go out to an office setting every day, or is he self-employed?
Yeah, he doesn't like to work from home. He's never been that type of person. He thinks that home is home and keep the sanctity of that. And so going to an office is better for him.
Gotcha. Hey, it's different strokes for everybody. We talked about that when we were off the air in the grave room. That I like the home. I like a combination of both, like you said, a hybrid model.
Yep.
Where you go in a couple of weeks and then you spend the rest of the time. You go in like when you meet with clients or whatever. It's nice to have that professional office setting, and then
yes, for sure.
You work from home as well when you need to or have to. It's just like you said, gas is getting high. It's nice to save money on gas.
Got to. And it's also nice to have to worry about being in a commute, right? I mean, I think the traffic's starting to come back, which is sad.
Right.
I'm like, I don't want to be in traffic. Every time I'm in traffic, I'm like, what is this? And I
it's such a waste of time. Like I see people that I work with every day, they're like making an hour commute, and I'm looking at them like, why?
Yeah, I'm like, nope. The patients have gone out the window because of the pandemic. I'm like, oh, there's no way we'll be sitting in traffic anymore. This is
right.
Yeah.
Did you have people that sought you out when you started your own business that were like used to working with Melissa? That I like Melissa, I want to keep working with her. How did they find you when you kind of went remote? Because I know like if I've left some companies, I have to sign like a document that says I'm not going to solicit, a sale. I'm not going to solicit past clients for like a year or something, whatever the terms are. Yep. So how did they find you or locate you?
Yes, I had to do the same. I had an NDA, so I couldn't talk about past clients at all for like a year, so there was definitely those situations where they asked me like, who did you work for? I'm like, I can't tell you, but it's
I was in marketing.
and an automotive company. There's lots of them, the big three. There's an oval one, so I couldn't really say much.
Right.
So at that time, but the people I work with, I mean, marketing, especially in the Detroit area, is a marketing network. I mean, you have folks who kind of work in automotive marketing, and then you have other. And I had the privilege of working with other, and we're like a small, we call second-class citizen marketing network, where we worked with we always see each other. We know each other. We're part of different groups because we've done marketing that may not be tied to automotive, but it's tied to all the other great, cool things that are in the Metro Detroit area. So it is kind of putting the shingle out. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't really even, because usually, you're supposed to say, hey, I'm open for business. I haven't even really done that. But what I do is I still interact with a lot of people on LinkedIn. I still talk with my former colleagues, former people who worked with me, actually, brought some of my former direct reports into some of my projects because everybody needs a high side hustle these days. And so I worked with people that way. But really ideally it's sending the message out via email to your contact list of like, hey, I am open for business. I have a template of what I usually tell people. I'm like, hey, I'm open for business. This is what I'm doing. And let me know. And yeah, I've actually been working off a lot of referrals, because of just making sure people know. And I'm, like I said, I've been staying on top of networking, either digital space like LinkedIn or going to different events, past events where former clients are still there, and go from there. Yeah, that's kind of how I've been doing it for the most part. Got around now that I'm 3 years in, so I'm past the whole NDA thing. So I talk a little more freely now, for sure.
Okay, and then that ties into my last question. How can potential clients contact you?
Yeah, it's very, very simple. If you want to go to wisedigitalmarketing.com, and then in the upper right, there's a contact button. So that's a very easy way of doing it. And for there, we set up, I usually do a free discovery call. We could talk about some of your needs. What are some of the problems that you have in marketing in that call? And with that, then they can also find out about the services that I offer, from strategy to, like I said, ad selling and media spend. But yeah, that's probably the easiest way to do that, is through wisedigitalmarketing.com. Click the contact button. It's right there, upper right.
Yeah, I love your branding as well with the owl. I think that is the cutest thing.
Yeah, I keep my owl. I try to use different types of owls, wise, like I said, I have over 30. I have over 30 years of experience, but my team has over 70 years of marketing experience, and that's just, it's hard, you can't find a lot of that for small businesses, a small agency. So
yeah, and I think, like you said, I love working with interns as well because they bring in that fresh image, they're in school, so they're learning about some of the new marketing trends that are out that those of us who have been around for a little bit, we might not even know about. Like I said, I told you, I confess, I've never been on TikTok. I don't think I'm missing too much, but I'm going to take your advice and
you're missing something. I'm telling you, it's entertaining. It is so entertaining, Nancy. I've never laughed out loud in tears as much as I have on TikTok these last couple of years and I just consume it. I mean, I have a TikTok for the business, but I haven't created the content yet there. But that's coming. But typically my consumers or my audiences are on some of the other platforms right now. So
yeah, that's good. Well, I'm gonna let you go, Melissa. It's always so much fun hanging out with you, talking to you. I feel like I'm talking to my girlfriend next door. So we have to get together more often, and I'm going to hit you up for DBHG as well, because we are in the process of rebranding again. So I want to get your advice on that. Work with Melissa. She's great. We work with her too. And I also want to thank you for volunteering your time for DBHG. And, even though we've hired you as an organization, you've also done a lot of work for us for free. So we really appreciate that. And I know those are things that you don't have to do. If you want to meet Melissa in person, she's going to be at the ribbon cutting next Tuesday. So we look forward to everyone joining us. So we will see you at the event. And so you said just go to your website, right? If they want to get a hold of you, wisedigitalmarketing.com.
Yep.
And you can learn more about Melissa on her website. Thank you so much, Melissa. Have a great evening.
Take care.
I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.
Yep. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. See you next Tuesday.